Nikki Esquivel lost 30 pounds with intermittent fasting, and she's kept it off for 2 years now. So thank you for being here, Nikki. Why don't you give yourself a little introduction? Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, sure. Thanks for having me, Kayla. My name is Nikki Esquivel, and I live in the Philippines. I've lived in the Philippines for 10 years, along with my husband, Anthony. We run an orphanage for street boys called Mercy House, ex-street boys, because there are boys now. We have 17 boys in our home right now. We've had as many as 25 at times here and there. 10 years ago, we moved here from the US. We were just your regular, typical American family. We had 6 children that we homeschooled. My husband worked outside, and I stayed home and took care of the family, and just kind of your normal average family that were called to come overseas and start an orphanage. So that's me.
Wow. So, why don't you give us a rundown of how you have found success with weight loss? How much have you lost, and how long did it take?
Sure. It took about a year, and I lost about 30 pounds. I was not ever what you would call obese. I'm little less than 5'4", so I'm not very tall. And at my highest weight, I was probably about 170 pounds. So maybe by the doctor's charts, I was on the edge of obesity. But what really challenged me to lose weight was I was just feeling so achy and old and bad every single day. When we first moved to the Philippines, it was busy and hectic, and I lost some weight and I had a lot of energy. And then as we got settled into our routine with our orphanage and kind of knew what we were doing and knew the ropes, I got a lot more sedentary. A lot of what the work that we do here involves a lot of writing of newsletters and updating our friends in the States and all of this. And so there was a lot of sitting on the computer for me, and I started packing on the pounds. My husband and I started this nightly habit of having a glass of wine and some chips in our room, and it became every single night. And before I knew it, I had just put on weight, and I just felt achy and uncomfortable. So that's kind of what led to I just had to change. I knew I had to do something.
Right. So, you lost 30 pounds, and it took about a year. What were you doing during that time? What was your daily routine like?
Okay. Well, first of all, I learned about intermittent fasting from a friend of mine in the States who's a lady much older than I am, and a close friend of our orphanage. I went home on a furlough, and I saw her, and she looked amazing. She looked thin, but just radiant. Her skin was beautiful. Her eyes were bright. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm intermittent fasting." And I kind of said, "Okay, well, that's great." And I didn't think about it again until I started to feel bad and realized I needed to do something. And I thought, what was that thing that my friend said she was doing? And I just started Googling. So the routine that I settled on is I started out slow at 16:8, I think was my first fast. And I had to take a spoonful of peanut butter in the middle of my fast. I couldn't even make my first fast because I was so hungry. But I stuck with 16:8 for probably a month. And I was amazed in the first 2 weeks just how much better I felt. My aches and pains started to go away. My sleep got a little bit better, just small things, those non-scale victories. In 2 weeks' time, I was already seeing those. And so at about a month in, I upped my window. I made my eating window a little bit smaller, and I did 18:6 for a while. Now several years in, I'm in maintenance. I'm about 132 pounds, I think. I don't weigh regularly anymore, but I know when my certain pair of pants fit a certain way, that it's time to do something different. So my maintenance is either 24, so a 4-hour eating window, or OMAD, just depending on how busy the day is. And I like to eat early in the day. So I will have a window from maybe 9 to 12 or 9 to 1, earlier in the day. And then I will close my window before dinner time for sure, and just fast out the rest of the day with some decaffeinated coffee helping me make it through to bedtime. So that's my window. And I do exercise. I do walk about 6 kilometers. I don't know what it is in miles, but I think 6 kilometers, 5 days a week probably. And then 2 days a week of strength training with dumbbells, resistance training, just an hour. I'm light, the exercise is fairly light, but it's super effective coupled together with my fasting program.
Mhm. So when you are eating in the eating window, what do you eat?
I'm a mindful eater, but I'm not on any specific plan. I'm not low carb or no sugar. I've toyed with those things. I know you have too, because I've listened to your podcast and I've tried temporarily, and I'm just so unhappy.
Right.
Not yeah, I like, I can't have a piece of cheesecake if I'm at a gathering and there's cheesecake. Come on,
Right.
I'm not gonna live that way the rest of my life. I'm more than 50 years old, and I'm definitely not gonna live out the rest of these years not having cheesecake or not having. So I'm mindful, but I do eat till I'm nice and full and satisfied. I focus on vegetables and protein because I know those things keep me going until the next day. And then I usually do have a little dessert at the end of each window, sometimes a little glass of wine, even though it's still afternoon, just so I don't feel deprived. And then I shut my window and I think, okay, I'll see you again tomorrow, refrigerator, and kind of go about my day.
And so you said mindful eating. I think that's really interesting. What is mindful eating to you? Like, how do you define that for yourself?
I eat with a purpose. Like, I know I need to get some fiber in my diet each day. I want to have vitamin dense food. So normally we don't have good lettuce here in the Philippines. It's hard to find. So I'll use a cabbage for my lettuce, and I'll cut it up, and then I'll put the things on it that I know have what I think my body needs. I'll put cashews and some raisins and other vegetables, some kind of a dressing that doesn't have a lot of sugar in it, and just make a really big, pretty salad and eat that first when I open up my eating window. And then I feel like, I don't want to take a bunch of supplements. I just feel like, okay, I've given myself, food is medicine. And so I've given myself the things that I know my body needs, and it tasted good, but now maybe a little something I want after that. And I'll go for a little treat of some kind before I shut my window. I'm just mindful of what's going into my mouth. I don't eat in front of a screen, watching a movie, or on my phone or any of that. I really look forward to it. It's almost like a little ceremony. I get my food, I get, my whatever I'm going to drink, and I'm excited. I like to be alone if I'm eating a lot of times, because the schedule of the kids is a lot different from my schedule. So I like to have that kind of as me time, so, and just kind of enjoy my big salad and think about the day and eat alone.
Very good. And so you said you drink coffee during your fasting window, and do you put anything in it, or you just drink it black?
I just drink it black. I always have, even before intermittent fasting. So that was an easy thing for me. A lot of my friends struggled with that splash of cream, that's stevia or monk fruit or something to sweeten it. But I really have never used anything. My dad's a military man, and so black coffee I thought that's all you could have. We grew up with that around the house, and so I grew to love it at an early age.
So in maintenance, you said that occasionally maybe the pants get a little bit too tight, and so what do you do when you find yourself where it's like, I think I've gained a little bit? Do you what has there been anything where you've noticed, like, oh, here's what I started doing, and this is what led to it, a little bit of gain? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I'll notice I get a little bit loosey-goosey in my window. My 4-hour window will still usually be 4 hours, but I'll have, I'll get a candy bar at the gas station, and when we stop, I'll get, there's a few more treats here and there. And then I'll notice maybe the next week or so, the pants getting tight, and I'll just go back to OMAD for a few days. I don't stop having my little one treat if I want it, because I know that it takes time to gain. It takes time to lose. I don't need to do it overnight. I'm very thankful for my body, the way that it is right now, the way that it's working. I feel so good, and I love the way that I look. So it's not a matter of beating myself up, but I just don't want it to get out of control. You know how one kind of loosey day can turn into 2, 3, 4, and before you know it, you go, am I still an intermittent faster? Am I still on a health program at all? Am I on a journey? So I like to rein it in kind of quickly, but I don't do anything drastic. I'll go back to OMAD and just kind of move on. And it always resolves in just a very short time, just a few, maybe 3 days to 5 days of being a little bit more mindful, and it resolves.
All right. And so do you feel like you have any challenges that you still face with this whole thing? Or do you feel like, I've pretty much got it under control?
I do sometimes have challenges. There are times that I'm challenged with being consistent, given myself a few too many liberties sometimes. One of my big challenges is finding good shoes here for my walking. Like I love to walk, and it's hard to find a good pair of trustworthy walking shoes. When I find a pair, I'll buy them. And then when they start to hurt, it's hard to find another pair. That's been a big challenge for me. So when I come home on furlough, that's when I get good shoes,
Right.
get good shoes that are made in the States. And then I'd say consistency as far as the fitness journey can still sometimes be a challenge for me because I can be an emotional eater, and it's a very high stress environment. I live inside the orphanage with the boys and my husband and some of our own kids. And a lot of behaviors from past trauma come along with what we do. And so sometimes at the end of the day, I just think, I just want a sleeve of cookies and to end and some days I give into that, and I'm sorry when I do, and other days I don't, and I feel really strong that I didn't, but I still do struggle. I battle myself sometimes.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to show my ignorance, like in the Philippines, because you're in the Philippines. So Amazon is not a thing there?
No, they have their own version, but it's local products. So Amazon has just started delivering over here, and we haven't tried it yet. I mean, we're missionaries, so we also have to be careful and frugal. And there are times that I just feel bad about, dropping $100 on a pair of shoes. But I think, Amazon has just started. And so I'm thinking it may be something that's worth the investment, just because it's my sanity, my mental health. Those walks are my everything. Like I can't wait to get out there when it's time to walk. It's not even a chore. I never dread it. I don't think, I think, oh, good. I do it all at once. So 6K all at one time. I don't break it up. I know that you break it up, but just I know my mark when it's 3K when I turn around, but that's when I listen to podcasts, yours and others. I listen to worship music. I can think, have time to just, not focus on the orphanage. So that walk it's one of my favorite things, actually.
That's awesome. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone else right now? They're on the weight loss journey. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to be patient on the journey. It takes so much longer than you think it's going to take, but it's instead of eyes on the goal all the time, eyes on the being skinny or eyes on the wearing a size whatever or having a certain number on the scale, just each day, just enjoy the journey, because it is going to take you longer than you think, but it's so worth it. I am so thankful that I saw that friend and her glow and heard the words intermittent fasting, and then, came back here and thought, I got to do something. I thought that maybe I had an autoimmune disorder or some kind of an illness or even ALS. Like I scared myself because my body was just hurting. And I was too young for that. I wasn't, I was too young to be in that much pain. And I would just encourage anybody who's thinking about starting intermittent fasting to just start today. Pick a window that you think you can live with. Whatever food you really wanted when the window's closed, just save it for tomorrow and do a little bit of moving. If you put on a song and dance to one song with the blinds closed in your room, just one song, maybe the next week, 2 songs, little by little, and just give it time. Give yourself a year. Don't say, if I'm not feeling better or looking great in 30 days, I'm done with this thing. Give it a really good, fair shot. And I just don't think anybody would be sorry that they did. I'm super thankful that I started this journey. I can't even believe I'm in maintenance. I never thought I would say I'm in maintenance. I always thought I'd be losing those extra 10, those extra 5. They're gone. I'm just exactly the size that I love being, just a normal, healthy, energetic 53-year-old woman.
That's awesome. And so you said you've been in maintenance for a while. So when did you actually lose the weight? And so you've been maintaining for how long?
It took about a year, a little bit more than a year, to be where I was really felt like I wasn't going to go back and I was comfortable. So I started around 2020. So sometime in the middle of 2021, toward the end of 2021, I would say I had lost all the weight I was going to lose. And then I went into maintenance. But even through maintenance, I worked on, toning up things through exercise and trying to walk my 6K a little bit faster, little personal challenges just for my heart and my own physical health. I do have, my youngest child is a child who has Down syndrome. And so a big part of my motivation was just to be here as long as I can for him.
Yeah.
So that it's one, it's one of those special needs parents' worst fears, that something would happen to you and your child would be left,
Right.
with somebody that isn't just as crazy about them as you are. But for me, it was, that bad thing was already happening. I was out of energy. I was out of, desire to play and run and all those kinds of things. And so that was just a big part of my motivation to get myself together for him,
That's
so that
awesome.
I can be the best mom,
So, Nikki, is there anything else that you'd like to share about your weight loss journey?
I guess, one little tiny piece of advice that I'd caution people that are maybe just starting or haven't started yet is to be really careful about scrolling the internet for advice. You hear so much contradicting advice. Oatmeal's great, oatmeal's terrible. Peanut butter's great, peanut butter's terrible. And you can get yourself so confused. And I know you've called this the research stage, where people will get stuck there. It's so easy, especially with reels on social media,
Mhm.
to hear from these influencers all this contradicting advice and think, forget it. I'm never going to get it right. But you're never going to get it right if you don't get started. So my advice is just to get started. Eat mindfully what sounds good to you in your window, and just test it out and see. Watch and see. You will make progress if you're reasonable with your input, and you're faithful with your window. You will have progress. So don't be scared of all that contradictory advice.
That's such good advice. Okay, so Nikki, if people would like to get in touch with you, connect with you somehow, how can they do that?
Sure. So they can go to Facebook and look for Mercy House of the Philippines. And that's me. I run the page for our orphanage, and I'm happy to answer questions. I can, help somebody be their accountability partner if they need that. I'm happy to help out in any way that is feasible for my time schedule and theirs as well. So Mercy House of the Philippines, and I can help you out.
Awesome. And can people donate to Mercy House? Is that like do you, I'm assuming charities always need money, right?
Sure. Yeah. We're missionaries, and we aren't allowed to work here, even though my husband is a native Filipino. He's not able to work on the visas that we have. And so, if anybody wanted to donate to the work we do here, we have residential care for street boys, and then we have a lot of community outreach. If anybody listening is planning to be in the Philippines for another reason and wants to join in a feeding program or a community outreach, you can just come and serve food and meet the kids. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. And I'll put the link in the description so everybody can find you on those
Great.
places. So thank you very much for being here, Nikki, and for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. You've been a great part of my journey here lately, Kayla. It's been a pleasure to really meet you now that I've met you on a podcast, to really meet you on a chat. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you consider yourself an intermittent fasting success story and you would like to be considered for an interview on this channel, please reach out to interviews@sixmilestosupper.com.